Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the William G. McGowan Theater here at the National Archives. My name is Kareem Porter. I'm the curator for our special exhibition, Rightfully Hers, American Women and the Vote. I'm very pleased you could join us for tonight's program, whether you are here in the theater or joining us via Facebook or YouTube. Tonight, we present a very special performance of 19, the musical, which is part of a series of events related to the Rightfully Hers exhibition. Our partner for this evening's program is the 2020 Women's Vote Centennial Initiative, and we thank them for their support. Before we get started, I'd like to let you know about two upcoming programs. Next Wednesday, September 25th at 7 p.m., we will show the feature documentary film, A Towering Task, the story of the Peace Corps. It will be followed by a Q&A with the film's director and screenwriter. On Thursday, October 17th at 7 p.m., a panel discussion will explore the topic, Women Suffragists and the Men Who Supported Them, the Suffragents, their role in the struggle for the vote. Check our website, archives.gov, or sign up at the table outside of the theater for email updates. You'll also find information about other National Archives programs and activities. Another way to get more involved with the National Archives is to become a member of the National Archives Foundation. The foundation supports the work of the agency, especially its education and outreach programs. Check out their website, archivesfoundation.org, to learn more and to join online. Rightfully Hers, which is on view upstairs in the Lawrence F. O'Brien Gallery, commemorates the Centennial of the 19th Amendment and tells the story of women's struggle for voting rights as a critical step towards equal citizenship. The exhibit explores how American women across the spectrum of race, ethnicity, and class advance the cause of suffrage and follows the struggle for voting rights beyond 1920. The decades-long fight for the vote in the 19th and early 20th centuries engaged large numbers of women in the political process. And a critical part of that campaign was getting their message out to the nation and shifting public opinion to support their cause. One way of spreading that message to a wide audience was through music. Tonight, the power of music is again employed in the cause of voting rights. Through music and dance, 19, the musical, brings to life the inspirational stories of the suffragists who defied the odds and fought for women's right to vote. After the show, you'll have the opportunity to talk to the cast, but for now, please enjoy 19, the musical.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We are currently workshopping an original production, and we've invited you to get a behind-the-scenes sneak peek of a musical in development. Tonight we'll be sharing selected songs from 19, the musical. 19 is the dynamic women the right to vote, the 19th Amendment. The year is 1920. We open in a grand banquet hall in Washington, D.C. Lucy Burns, Carrie Chapman Catt, Ida B. Wells, and Christabel Pankhurst are celebrating the passage and ratification of the 19th Amendment. These are the opening scenes from the original musical, 19. This is 19 and Easy.
Break out your dancing shoes. We won, we won, we won, we won, we won. We won, we got the vote. We won, we won, we won, we won, we won.
Finally, a federal amendment.
19 is my new lucky number.
Not long, I imagine.
Oh, less than that, I bet.
I could use a little more champagne.
Oh, temperance, ladies! Oh, but it's for Alice. We won, we got the vote. We won, we won, we won, we won, we won. Our fight for equal rights is done. We won, we won, we won, we independence. 19. We've waited for so long for this to come true. So long overdue. Oh yes, the 19th Amendment makes our gender ascendant.
I can't quite comprehend it.
When I see how far we've come, I thrill to see what we become. Ladies think 10 years ago this movement we could barely see. Now I'm so emancipated that I drive a Model T. Finally our nation awakens from its slumber and joyously beholds its number. 19. Susan B. Anthony would have loved today. She'd finally say, we have the 19th Amendment, a right to vote. We ought to have one. We fought. And finally, we won, we won, we won, we won, we won, we won.
May I please have your attention? May I please have your attention? It is time for the National Women's Party Gala to come to order. Thank you. Yes, ladies and strong, enlightened gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for coming this evening to celebrate this momentous occasion. Nearly 75 years after the first Women's Convention in Seneca Falls, New York, way back in 1848. We have finally won the vote. Yes, we are making history. It is a shame our dear sister and leader of this movement, Susan B. Anthony, did not live to see this day. But we will raise a glass to Aunt Susan, to the amendment that bears her name, and to all of you. We couldn't have done it without you. Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
History, ladies and gentlemen. History. Things will be different from now on. From here on out, it shall all be so
easy. Was that the word you were meaning to utter? That it would all be so easy? You got caught in a stutter? Please, if that's the case, I've got some news for you.
Some news for you.
It will never, ever, ever, ever be easy. Ladies, a little decorum, please. As I was saying, it will never be easy. Oh, Alice, you'd be surprised to know I do concur, Alice Paul, in fact. I defer, Alice Paul, to this party environment. After all, who could blame you for such crass entitlement? But, I'd be remiss not to tell you, AP, your name is still buried in history, and it largely remains a mystery, while your credit never came due. Here you are, the face of a movement, a race for improvement, a moment in time, and a reason to shine a light on equality for the women who have gone before you, like me, who have fought to spare you, like me, from the indignities of those who thought they knew better. Like me. Which brings me to my point, AP. You may have heard of me. I am the one. I am the only Sue B. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I am Susan B. Anthony, the mother of this very movement here, to which you bear witness. Oh, You're surprised I'm so young. Agreed. Anyone thinking this movement was easy, let me tell you that's revisionist history. But Alice Paul knows. Alice Paul knows. Oh, she knows better than most the hardships of getting the vote, for which some women fought and some women died. But we forget that, don't we? That's why I'm here, to remind you. It's time to rewind.
Where she meets Lucy Burns, a suffragist who will become a close friend and ally in the fight to get women to vote. This is Partners in Crime.
Read about the suffragettes. Read about our plight for rights. Read about the suffragettes. Read about our plight for rights.
Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Oh, London, England. This is gonna be great, right? Fighting for equal rights, fighting for liberty. What? You look shocked. You are Alice Paul, right?
Yes, 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 I am. But let's take this slow. We've never met, I don't know you yet. So, sister, just slow your roll.
Right, I'm Lucy Burns. How do you do? Don't be so nervous, I'm here at your service. I feel we're two kindred souls.
You're an American.
Brooklyn, New York, USA. Put it there, what do you say?
Oh, pleased to meet you, Miss Burns. I'm from New Jersey. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, what's wrong with New Jersey?
Come on now, Alice, loosen up. There's much to do.
Are we a team?
Hey, that's my cue. This team of lady heroes would change the world, making their entrances and now finishing each other's sentences.
Partners in crime, partners in crime. I've got your back,
And you've got mine.
preaching the gospel
Of respect for the lady.
These men are so hostile.
It's like they're from Hades.
Partners in crime, partners in crime. Yeah, women's rights for the win. Out on the streets, we are standing on boxes.
Way before the tweeters and the haters that mock us.
We are partners in crime, a couple of mad mademoiselles. Brooklyn
And Jersey.
don't expect a curtsy. We're gonna raise some hell. Oh. Holy hell.
After returning home from England, Alice earns yet another university degree. Now she must finally decide on what she will do with her future and how she will make a difference. Alice's realization sets her on a path that changes history. This is New World Order.
Dear Mama, I feel compelled to write again as I am faced with this new world. No more hiding from the future and reality. Behind my books and many scholarly degrees, I feel a certainty of what comes next. Dear Mama, I know the time has finally come for me to step out of the shade, embrace my inner fight, and take a stand for what is right. The only way to do this is to start a movement. A woman's movement like we've never seen before. solid ground I'll find my true voice. Doubting is no longer a valid choice. We're gonna run before we walk. We're gonna shout before we talk. This mission's not for the faint of heart. This is a war we are going to start. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. It's the start of a new world order. It's the start of a new world order. Can you feel it? Can you hear it? It's the start of a new world order. It's the start of a new world order. It's time to stake our claim. It's the start of a new world order. It's time to grab the reins. It's time to rise and fight. Let's turn this wrong into a right. This gift is a ladder to better. The higher we climb, the closer to freedom. Claim our justice, it's for us, yes. We have no choice but to win this.
It's the start of a new world order.
I'm here to right the sequel.
Can you hear it?
I stand here pen in hand. In my version we are equal.
Can you feel
And we won't bow to being less than.
It's the start of a new world order.
Dear Mama, thank you for taking me to all those speeches on equality.
It's the start of a new world order.
From here on out, I shall find my way towards freedom.
Can you feel it? Can you hear it? It's the start of a new world order.
Dear Mama, it seems I finally found my destiny.
World order. Can you feel it? Can you hear it? It's the start of a new world order. It's the start of a new world order. It's the start of a new world order.
Race was an issue that arose again and again throughout the suffrage movement. There was a strong thread of racism among the Southern white contingency of suffragists, and Alice Paul had to play an unfortunate balancing act in working to get all women the vote. Here we have Ida B. Wells, Alice Paul, and Carrie Chapman Catt in a scene about racism and suffrage. This is Will You Be Here For Me and Put Yourself in My Shoes.
I see them gathered in their close-knit groups, glancing my way. What do they say amongst themselves? What on earth do they see? Do they see the full human that's me? Do they see a journalist or maybe just this Negro? I'm no different than them. I'm flesh and blood, but come on, don't pretend. They don't think that I am the same, that I am a woman, and that I've got a name. to confront them, turning the light of truth upon them. Ida B. Wells is a force to contend with. You're better off friends with, because in the end I supported you in words and deeds. This you surely know. Now will you stand, march hand in hand, when we need our ranks to grow? You can rely on me, you should ally with me. I'll never let you down. This cause is much more than the vote. It's a liberty, as Lincoln wrote. Our common causes must unite us now. I stood with you, I'll stand again, but a question lingers in the breeze. When times are hard, when I'm scorned and scarred, will you be here for me?
It was difficult enough keeping all these different factions together with all their various agendas. The white Southern ladies have threatened to boycott the march, en masse. But we need them. We need their numbers and we need their support. So the Negroes will march in the rear, and Ida can walk with the contingent from Howard University.
I'll stand with you. This is nothing new, but answer what you please. When it gets rough, and it always does, when push comes to shove, will you disappear, or will you flee in fear? Or will you be here for
For a Quaker, you seem rather uncaring toward the plight of the Negro. Weren't your family strong abolitionists?
Yes, they were, and I fully support the Negro fight for justice. But race. Race is not on the ballot. We must stay...
Women are on the ballot! All women are on the ballot!
All women, Negroes included, will get the vote together. But this is a single-issue march. We can't be divided now.
But you're the one who's dividing us.
What I'm doing is working towards the vote.
What you're doing is being bullish, just like the men who are keeping us down.
No, I'm not. I'm being tactical. We are so close. For the first time, I feel it, don't you? We're making strides. Time goes by, and yet we still lack the vote. But not for long. Believe it, won't you? Our voice is strong, singing something special. Bring your neighbors, call in your favors. Votes for women. Votes for women.
I'll hiss my poor lost sister. I fear you just don't get it. You're a miss, not a mister. Not a mister, a spinster, a garish resistor. And for us to win, we must use our guile and wit. This burning bridge is must end. United you and I have power. This plan should be suspended. We have to wait for our God-given hour.
No more waiting.
Then what do you suggest we do?
I need you to make 200 flyers.
Excuse me? You want me to make copies?
We need them now, Carrie.
But I'm
no
not
buts. There's work to be done.
Alice!
Put yourself in my shoes. We have no time to lose. Only one more shot to change the plot and win the prize for which we fought so hard. Put yourself in my shoes. We have too much to lose. We have to act today. Your feet of clay will drag us back to earth again. No way.
Don't talk to me about your pain. You've never seen a loved one slain. I won't be denied, ignored or pushed aside.
Put yourself in my shoes. How dare you judge how I choose? With how hard it's been, we're so close to the win. Listen, ladies, gotta play it smart.
I need a meeting with you, and I need you to see me. The color of my skin has become quite akin to a veil to you of unforgivable sin.
If you march here with us, half of the women will vanish.
I am a woman and I will march by
You'll
your side.
jeopardize this
No,
march.
miss, I won't be denied.
Think of the damage you'll do.
Think of the lives I am living.
I know you yearn, but here's what I've learned.
I know that this is the time.
Put yourself in my shoes. We have no time to lose. We have to close our ranks. The time has come for me. Put yourself in my shoes.
How can you possibly refuse me?
Would you prefer defeat?
Not defeat.
Let me repeat, you two must soon agree.
I will not.
How dare you tell me to wait? You've never felt the impossible weight of a nation's unnatural hate. If you think for me I exaggerate, put yourself in my shoes.
With friends like you, we're bound to lose. We've waited for so long.
You think this is long?
Can't you get along?
I'll be damned if I lose ground. Put yourself in my shoes. Put yourself in my shoes. It's time to organize, agitate, educate.
I won't listen to you, cause my heart is true. If you think I'm less than I've got news
Walk
for you.
proudly last.
Not so fast.
See the contrast.
We're all in this fight to win. Put yourself in my shoes.
Hall planned the first march on Washington. The peaceful march was met with heavy-handed resistance from men. There were also other significant internal issues within the movement that were playing out. This is the Bloody March.
And now, the march. When Alice Paul made up her mind, your only choice was to get in line. There was no turning back. Our girl would confront any attack. Head on, head on, head on. No matter the toll, no matter the price. Alice was willing to roll the dice. And on that day of March the 3rd, it all started smoothly, as you may have heard. There goes Inez on her white steed, waving her hand like a pageant queen, riding through the Capitol at stately speed. With the ladies all in place, things continued apace, with their signs held high and their heads held higher. With their signs held high, their heads held higher. Watch out, world, was the rally cry. Forward out of darkness, leave behind the night. Forward out of error, forward into light, forward into light. These finely turned out ladies of yore, they had transformed themselves into troops of a noble war. But wait, there's more to this tale of glory. Our dear Ida Wells, who said she wouldn't attend, well, what? She changed her mind, my friend. And where do you think Miss Wells then marched? Forward into light.
Wherever I damn well please. At the front of the Illinois delegation, everyone together, black and white, no segregation, right where I belong.
Right where she belonged, amid the vast and varied throngs. The parade got started with chants, then cheers, then words got round to the pubs. The element that Alice needed, yet feared, stormed the streets like unruly thugs. Women pulled, grabbed, slapped, groped, spat on, kicked, hit, beaten, and the police, the ones who were sworn to protect and serve, turned their backs and scorn, then doing the beatings of the women who were out in the street on a life-saving mission.
I knew we'd be at risk of great bodily harm. I knew that putting you out there would set off these alarms. But we must continue this thing we have started. What happened today will not thwart us. We know there's a system of hatred woven into the fabric of this great nation. Hatred that keeps us under thumb and refuses to let us be who we should become. But now, ladies, we will get justice. Once we have the vote in front of us, we will put all politicians on notice. Those who so reinforce and tolerate this smothering blanket of blind hate. No matter the party, no matter the price, will meet an unforgiving fate.
Has now gathered the suffragists at the gates of the White House and declared that they will now become silent sentinels. Although they protest in silence, carrying signs and banners, their strong, stoic, and immovable presence gives them a voice that President Wilson must eventually listen to. This is silence.
Without extinction is liberty. Without retrograde is equality. They live in the feelings of young men and the very best of women. There's a strength and power in this. find yet unrelenting. Quiet is not quite the word for silence. Is a sound unto itself. Not for nothing have the indomitable heads of the earth been always ready to fall for liberty. When injustice becomes the law, then resistance becomes duty. This is our resistance, and it's more effective than a yell. Silence. We're gathered here to rattle the foundation. Though our presence will be met with silence, we will make a raucous declaration. As we convene, we're challenging our nation. There's terrifying power in this silence.
I'd much prefer them breaking laws and violence. It freaks me out when they refuse to speak.
For too long, for way too long, we women have depended on having a man go forth and speak for them. Oh, and now we'll use our silence as a weapon. They'll hear our silence, the deafening and clanging roar of silence. And just as though they heard us loud and clear, they'll understand each word they cannot hear. Defiance. With every word we do not speak defiance. We'll never stop until we get compliance. Until that day, we'll fight your laws for silence. Dear Mr. President, we desire to make known to you the intolerability of this current milieu, the sense of wrong inflicted, these women's rights restricted. They abandon their health and strength, keeping their fuller expression at arm's length, forcing women to abandon their dreams, all in the name of freedom. Under a government that professes democracy, you, sir, have made these women a mockery. You treat our plea to be free with violence. You deserve nothing more than silence.
Throughout the suffrage movement, black suffragists were often put in difficult, if not untenable, situations. Here we have Ida B. Wells illuminating the many challenges and obstacles to staying in the fight for suffrage as it became more militant and willing to provoke a response from the authorities. And those authorities were extremely unforgiving to women of color. This is Damned If I Do.
And damned if I don't. I'm damned no matter where I stand on this fight for the vote. My world is filled with limitations enforced by segregation. Are we damned to be a footnote? The ghosts of a lost generation. I place my life in their hands. Standing at the gates, an unjust authority to determine my fate. And if I stand
reached equality to only be damned. I put myself at your mercy, put my life at risk to be the center of your fights and fists. Someone must show how the African American race is more sinned against than sinning. And it seems it has fallen upon me to do so. Say when and where I enter into the quiet, undisputed dignity of my womanhood, without violence or special patronage. Then and there, the whole Negro race enters with me.
On June 4th, 1919, Congress passed the 19th Amendment. For it to become law, 36 states had to vote yes to ratify it. Ratification came down to one state, Tennessee, and one man, Harry Byrne. When Harry showed up to vote at the state legislature on August 18th, 1920, he was wearing a red rose, which signified that he was anti-suffrage. However, Harry's mother was urging him to change his vote and vote for suffrage at the last minute. This is Harry, Listen to Your Mother. I apologize.
Harry, listen to your mother.
I always listen when you speak.
Be the boy who has his brothers.
I'm a man now, can't you see?
You can give women the vote. Oh, Harry, don't oppose it. We're so close.
But I'm a man of my word.
Yes, of course you are, dear Harry.
Then, mother, you must realize that I cannot turn.
Oh, no, my son, you can.
My brothers in the Congress, they are counting on me. I'm the vote they need.
Vote for suffrage, Harry. Don't leave them waiting. I've noticed some votes against.
There are very good arguments against women's suffrage, Mother. Women shouldn't have to concern themselves with something so taxing as the voting booth.
No woman is concerned with being taxed, my dear son. These men are bitter, and I've been waiting to see where you've stood and have noticed nothing yet.
I'm still deciding.
To get the word male, in effect, out of the Constitution has cost the women of this country 52 years of pauseless campaign.
Be a good boy and help Mrs. Catt put the rat in ratification.
Harry, listen to your mother.
Why should I? Why should I?
'Cause you will never have another.
Guilt is such a killer.
I gave you your life, and you'll give women freedom, my good son. How can you argue with that?
I know a mother's advice is always safest for her boy to follow. And my mother wanted me to vote for ratification. I will vote for mother's freedom.
He will give us all our freedom.
He will give us all our freedom.
I will remove my red rose.
He will remove that cursed rose.
And I will fight those who oppose the right to vote.
Harry listened to his mother.
He's such a good boy.
He's our hero and our brother.
Such a wonderful son.
Even more so is his mother.
Finally, he listened to his mother.
the evening. This is the opening number to Act 2, Right Women, Right Time.
Women, bring a new day. Women, find a new way. Women, right time, right women, right. Women, bring a new day. Women, find a new way. Women, right time, right women, right. Round the world, battles raging. Back in Washington, D.C.
Right here, right now, downtown
They
DC.
say the course, despite these wars, as women bring a new day. Women find a new way. Women, right time, right women. At Cameron House, they all gather to plan a strategy.
Right here, right now, look out,
A week of night till every step was just right, and they are tired. Oh Lord, are they tired? But Alice Paul is one hell of a fighter. Ida, she'll never stop, always burning brighter and brighter. And look at Carrie, she's just now hitting her stride. And oh Lucy, poor dear, don't worry, she'll soon be ready to fly. These are the women ready to lead. Women for future, you see. Women, right time. Right women, right on.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'd like to also thank the National Archives for inviting us to be a part of this exhibit, this celebration of women's suffrage. We are so honored and humbled to be here. I'd also like to introduce the folks behind everything. We have our directors, producers, writers, lyricists, Doug Bradshaw and Jennifer Schwed, and our composer, Charlie Barnett. Normally, following a workshop, we will offer a Q&A with the audience, and tonight we are very honored to have a special guest moderator. I would like to introduce Caitlin Caligera from A Tour of Her Own. So this is a local tour guide company that offers women's history walking tours around Washington, D.C., focusing on emphasizing and bringing to light women's stories throughout the city of American history and culture. So we are very honored to have her here tonight.
Get down and we can't get up.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
They should be. Take the good seat. I was going to sit there.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. Again, my name is Caitlin. It's an honor to be here in support of 19 the Musical and also in support of these fabulous performers. Let's give them one more round of applause.
Bravo!
Just one more quick introduction before we get into the Q&A portion. On my left here is Jen, and then we have Charlie, and at the end there is Doug. Now, there will be a opportunity for you to ask questions as well at the end of this little session here. So if you are interested in doing that, please line up on either side of the steps, and there are microphones for you. All right. So this was, I think, my third time seeing this now, and I absolutely love the work that you are doing right here. It's so important, it's so timely, and it's a very complex story that I think you really bring to life, tell it well, and I always leave sort of catchy and dancing to all the songs, so so well done. But we'd like to get to know more. This was just a sample of the full production, but we wanted to give you a little flavor. So let's dive a little bit deeper. Our first question is, can you tell us about the history of the show and what was your motivation for creating it?
Sure. So we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I answer this question a lot, so everyone here is very used to my response. This all started about 3 years ago, and it was three things behind the inspiration. One was the musical Hamilton, one was the election of our first female president, and the other was the Centennial coming up in 2020. Yeah, not everything came through the way we thought it would, but we still decided, let's try and do a musical, and Doug and I have been in theater and film for a while. We've never done a musical before, but I thought, if Lin-Manuel can do it, why can't we? So we sought out a composer. We found the wonderful Charlie Barnett, and that was really the start of it.
And you have to tell the story.
Of how we found our composer. So I was seeking, it's a production about women, and I was looking for a female composer. So I sent out a request to a group of women in film and video that I belong to, and I said, I'm seeking a female composer for a story about the 19th Amendment and suffrage. First email I get is from this person right here who says, I think I'm your guy. And I couldn't resist. No, he's clearly amazingly talented. So he became our man.
Thank you.
Great. Let's roll with that a little bit. Charlie, can you tell us about the process of the lyrics and the music?
It's great. The process. It's been going on for 2 years. We probably thought it would be smoother, and I'm sorry. I remember this now. So talking to the microphone. And it goes back and forth. Sometimes I get complete lyrics, set these lyrics to music. Sometimes I get just a story idea and set this to music and hash out the story, and we'll fight about lyrics later. And sometimes it's happened that I just there's one song that I can think of. I think it's I'm Prim. Is that I just thought, Carrie Chapman Catt has to have a song called I'm Prim, so what? And so I just wrote I'm Prim without having any place in the script for that song, and then Jen and Doug kindly wrote the place for the song, so it existed. So that was completely backwards from any of the others. Maybe we've done a couple like that.
And I want to add, once we started writing with Charlie, he very graciously handed us a thesaurus to let us know about our rhyme schemes and word choices. I still have that thesaurus. Thank you.
But anyway, it's been a great process, and I think together it has been at least I can only speak for myself, but it's been a richer process for the squabbles that go into it. It really has. I mean, there are so many times when I have no interest in the actual history of it. I'm just interested in the actual rhyme of it. And Doug will come down hard on the history part and just say, that didn't happen like that, but it rhymes. You know? and so
that's our process.
And throughout that, we've managed to come up with 41 songs. I know. So when you come to the show in November, you're in for a big show. It's gigantic.
That doesn't include the ones we cut.
That's right, and there's 10 that don't exist in the show anymore.
So you just mentioned November. So as I mentioned, this is just a sampling of the full production. Did we want to tell the audience when and where they can expect you next?
Me? You.
You can talk. November.
November 25th, 26th, and 27th at the National Museum for Women in the Arts. And we'll be in the theater there. This is new information, and I'm really delighted about that. It's not a huge, it's probably this size, actually. And so I think it's going to be a really good experience to put on the full show. Same costumes. These are great.
Mark your calendars. It's not that far away, and we look forward to it. And let's move on and talk about the choreography and the movements of the show. Can somebody elaborate on that for the audience? The choreography.
Sure, okay. So my name is Angela.
My name is Danielle.
That's Danielle. And we've been choreographing for, I guess, about a year now. We've been involved in the show from the start. We started as dancers, and then we sort of moved into taking over the choreography piece. That has also evolved a lot in the past 2 years. In the beginning, it was more, sort of arbitrary where the movement was. Now I think it's become a lot more central in the overall theme. A lot of this story is very physical. There's a lot of physical things that happen to these women that they go through, and movement is really a very powerful way to, show that and to feel that. So we have some stylized movement that goes into things like imprisonment, beatings, tortures, etc., as well. The march. There's a lot of, fun numbers as well, but the choreography is definitely a big element.
Yeah, so a little bit about our process. We kind of work with Doug and Jen about what the vision is, and we talk amongst ourselves just about what we want each kind of piece to look like, or to what kind of emotion we want to evoke. And then we kind of think of kind of stylistically what kind of movement styles can really evoke that, and then kind of put steps around that. So it really comes from the kind of style and emotion that we want to portray. And then we kind of argue amongst ourselves as well.
Yes, it's quite a bit of that.
I think your process is, yeah.
It's a contentious show.
It mirrors, yeah. And I would also say it's richer for the collaboration. We often, both of us work very much, from a process perspective, we work very similarly, so that works well. But we don't always obviously agree on maybe the stylistic representation of the theme of that. Like, we always pick a theme for each song. We pick an emotion, as she mentioned. We pick some sort of an inspiration, and then we try to have that choreography, like whether it's very staccato movements or very flowy movements, or, stylized versus lyrical, or, things like that, so.
So I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll follow up and open it to the audience. So again, if you do have a question in mind, you can just line up at one of the microphones on either side, and we'll get to you. But my last question for Jen and Doug is, can you tell us about the historical side? As you mentioned earlier, it's, of course, has to be historically accurate. So what was that process like as far as the research and the background?
Doug's a really good researcher, so.
Well, what we did, we started by reading everything we could, and we originally thought, it was actually really funny, we spoke with different historians, we spoke with experts and academics, and one of the academics that we spoke with was saying that we should combine characters. We should make composite characters because the story was so big. And we, of course, were like, we're absolutely not going to do that. We're going to, everything is going to be historically correct. And we started reading it, and like we pretty quickly figured out that the story is so massive and sprawling, and there's so many people who are involved in it that we joke that if we had stuck with it, the script would have been 10,000 pages long. So we end up having to make a lot of composite characters and composite scenes because this isn't a documentary; it's a musical. But yeah, that's kind of it. Everything starts with research.
Okay, let's open it up. Does anybody have some questions for anyone? Directors, writers, any of the cast members?
Brave.
Just perhaps because of the pieces that you selected and the way you presented them, it felt a little Brechtian. So is it that way, or is it just because of the selections and how they were presented? I'm trying to understand it as a musical, having just seen little bits of it. Thank you.
Brechtian. I love that so much.
Here comes a new song.
The show runs about 2 hours, and it follows Alice from being a kind of a girl with her parents a little bit, and then we bring her through college, and where she matures and comes into her own when she goes to England, and then that's where she meets the Pankhursts, and they are the suffragettes in England, and they alter her life course, and she experiences torture and brutality in England and comes back to America and brings that militant suffragette attitude to this country, and we follow the story up through the vote, through getting the vote in Tennessee.
Yeah, so the selections tonight were, they're really just made on a basis of pulling a sampling from both acts. We just pull them out and perform them, and we try to have a sort of a feel to it, something that has an opening and a closing. We do start with the opening. 19 and Easy is the opening of the show, so we just try to give you a taste of it.
So not Brechtian. Yeah. I mean, really, wouldn't that be? That's such a. It's such a specific theatrical term, and I wish I could say yes, it's going to be that, but no, it's much more linear than that, and much more story oriented, and it doesn't have any of the leaps that you could take if you were Bertolt Brecht.
Okay, let's go right up here for the next question.
Thank you for putting Ida B. Wells' story in there. I think that's a really important part of the movement. Not a pretty part, but an important part. And Lin-Manuel Miranda had Ron Chernow's biography on Hamilton. You've got multiple characters, so could you recommend like the top 3 biographies that you referred to? We know that Lynn came to Anderson House here in D.C. and did research. Is there some place we should be running to? So that we can educate ourselves and be more prepared and more informed.
Did you say you wanted to?
Good question. So, top biographies or books to read?
Here, you should.
Elaine Weiss's book, The Woman's Hour, is excellent. Had me on the edge of my seat. Mary Walton wrote a great biography about Alice Paul.
Crusade.
What? Sorry?
Woman's Crusade.
Women's Crusade, thank you. Also, we are very honored here in D.C. to have the Belmont Paul House, which is, it's entirely free. You should go. It's where they worked after the amendment was passed, but it's steps away from the Capitol. So I highly recommend going to that. Were you going to say the...
Lucy, oh, okay, yeah. And also, if you go online, the Library of Congress has some very unique digitized documents, including Carrie Chapman Catt's journal. Also, you can find a audio recording of Alice Paul. She was interviewed later in her life as she was like 70 towards the end of the ERA, and so you can listen to that, which is really exciting.
Just a little plug for Lucy Burns. Down about, 15 miles from here, I think, is Lorton, the Lorton Workhouse, which is where a lot of the women, specifically Lucy, was imprisoned, force-fed, tortured, etc., for a period of like 72 hours or more. So they have a museum there open now called the Lucy Burns Museum that you can go into the jail cells and learn a lot about the women there. So that's incredibly interesting. It's now an art center, but they do still honor the suffrage movement with a small museum. And the gift shop here at the archives has a ton of books in it, so they didn't tell me to say that, but.
There's also a book by Sennheiser and Fry called Claiming Power, which is fantastic. And if you go upstairs in the archives, there's a really great exhibit going on.
Doug, say what you just said again.
Book by Sennheiser and Fry. It's called Claiming Power.
Yeah, so the exhibit Doug was just talking about was Rightfully Hers, open here at the National Archives. And then there are several other exhibits around the city that will be open through 2020 in celebration of the Centennial. So certainly the references are nearby, and there's opportunity to learn more. And we have a question right up here. Go ahead.
I am a music and social studies teacher for the Department of Defense, and so I teach the children of our nation's military that's stationed overseas, and I'm always looking for new things to bring to my students that are uniquely American, and this musical is that, right? You know, and it's so exciting. And so I have a question, wondering if any of the music is available for educational purposes, and also, Miss Scarlett, your voice is amazing. Just have to
No, she wants to know. You want to know if the music is available for them to get to sing.
Yes.
Yes.
To teach.
To teach.
Department of Defense kids.
The little ones, the shirt-tail youngins, peeking in the pool hall window after night. Yeah, I know those kids. It's not available in any form that I can think of. I think one of the ultimate goals for this show, I think I could safely say, is I think it would be a great show for high schools.
Oh yeah.
I can so see that, somewhere in the future. And so as soon as they can do it, you can do it.
Okay.
Is that fair?
I'm going to keep.
Oh, we do have recordings. There are recordings available.
So 19 is on Spotify, and we have, I think there are only 5 or 6 songs that are up there, but we do have professionally recorded songs. So Spotify and SoundCloud, you can find some of the music. So we won't tell anybody if you teach the kids.
Okay. I'm going to be stalking you, waiting for that music. Just saying. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great question, and thank you for your work. Teachers are certainly important, and the ones who are going to pass this message on to the next generation. Okay, we have somebody in a National Women's Party sash. Right on. Go right ahead.
Hi. So, first of all, I should probably lead with I really enjoy this show. Sorry, I'm sick, so it sounds like we're drowning in cheese graters at the moment. So I wanted to ask, what do you want, like, young kids and, like, what young people and boys and girls to, like, get out of watching the show and stuff?
Great question.
What did you get out of it?
Honestly, a lot of emotion. A lot of feeling. It was really pretty, and I really liked it. And, like, I understood everything, so yeah.
What can I?
Yeah, no.
I just want to say that I'd like them to be aware that it happened, because when I was a student, I had no idea. In fact, I had no idea until I started working on this musical exactly what the women went through. I thought Susan B. Anthony was there for the vote, and she didn't. She wasn't there. So I want them to know that it happened and know that they were young people that changed the movement. Alice Paul was only 26. It's that even if you're young, you can still affect change, and I think that's a very important message of this musical as well.
Okay.
And I think, too, that it was hard. It was really hard. And the things that these women went through were not easy things. They weren't pretty things. And that I hope that the young people who see this and learn this story will realize how precious their ability to vote is. So that when elections come around, they exercise that right to vote. Because it's because of these women that I can, on election day, take my latte and go into a voting booth and change, hopefully affect change for the course of this nation in such an easy way. And it's because of these women.
Yes. That was very moving.
So we have, it looks like 3 more questions. We will close it off after that, I think. And let's come right over here. Go ahead.
Bunch of us are Brenda Parker fans. She played Susan B. Anthony. And I want to ask why you chose her as the representation of the foundation.
Susan B. Anthony or Brenda Parker?
Susan B. Anthony.
So the show, because I can tell you the story about Brenda's good too. the Susan B. Anthony, initially when I came up with the idea of, hey, let's do a musical, it was going to be about Susan B. Anthony. And as I started to uncover the history, and I didn't know either that Susan B. Anthony was not alive when the Susan B. Anthony Amendment was passed. So I thought, dig a little deeper, learn a little more, and came up with all of these other people. But Susan B. Anthony, why she's in here and why we specifically want the role to be played by a woman of color is that we feel that we have to center the story on the women who have had it the worst in this country. This has to be the starting point in this story. So we also felt like we couldn't tell the story without honoring Susan B. Anthony, or and in an almost composite type way. We know there were lots of women in the 1840s working on this, but Susan B. Anthony had the name recognition for us to do that, to use her as that central point.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I'm a big fan of Brenda Parker, actually.
We all are.
Because I've seen her in various centuries in different roles. Can you tell us a little bit about her role here?
Do you want Brenda? Yeah. Do you want a microphone? Or do you have the mic?
Oh, you want me to talk about it? Oh, wow. I like hearing people talk about me. I was like, yes, do talk about me. This was the strangest thing. This beautiful creature right here, sitting beside me, dear friend of mine that we shared the stage one time, and it wasn't really the stage. We did a benefit performance for the anniversary of Little Theater of Alexandria many moons ago. And she had seen me perform at Little Theater of Alexandria, and we just kind of hit it off. You ever meet people and you feel like you've met them before and you've known them for a long time? Marie is one of those people. And so she kept telling Doug and Jen, she was like, I have Susan B. I have Susan B. I have Susan B. And they called me up, I think in the fall, like the first time. And yeah. And And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not available right now. I'm in the middle of such and such other production. And I was like, but still keep me, on your roster if you don't find anybody. And I was like, I'd be really, really interested in this. And they told me initially, right off the bat, it was like, we want to offer you the part of Susan B. Anthony. And I'm just like going, you do have Brenda Parker, right? So I was a little confused too, because I hadn't seen Hamilton. Yeah, I'm that person. I waited until I could afford it. And then didn't go see it in New York either. But anyway, and so a few months went by, and I think they called me like around December, like the end of the year maybe, or January or something like that. Again, I was tied up in another production. I was not available. And they had the most relaxed rehearsal schedule in the whole entire world. It was like, just come in on a Friday, We're just kicking it for a little while, we're still workshopping and workshopping and workshopping. I had no idea what workshop meant. But basically, workshop is like, you can have the lyrics in front of you. You can have the score right there in front of you because, you're working out the bugs. And I was still not available. And then I think another month and a half or so went by. And I said, okay, I think I'm finally available. So it was like the third time they had tried to contact me. And I'm just going, I'm thinking to myself that they should have cast this already. I was like, what's the big deal? But apparently Maria, she really felt strongly that I was going to be Sue B. And so did Jen once she, because Jen says, no, we had you in mind all along. And not to be offensive to anybody else that's held the role before. I thank you for paving the way and breaking the ice. But I was beyond flattered. And then I had to go through my own set of research too. So I have moments to where I'm double thinking, what is Susan B. actually thinking, when she's saying X, Y, and Z, and then Brenda as, a person of color, happy brown-faced Brenda, I'm going, I don't know, So it's been a very interesting growth process, I think, altogether, but I am so happy to be able to, speak, as we say, for those people that are additionally marginalized in the community, in the battle for voting rights and everything, and the fact that I get to do it by such a well-known voice. I'm kind of giving voice to Susan B., and hopefully she's very pleased. That's about it.
Thank you. I want to set the record straight. I did not do an All About Eve with our former Susan B. Anthonys. They all left us to do other shows or to move out of the area. It was not because I was doing some crazy stuff.
All right, moving on. Here we go. Another question up this way.
Is it working? Oh, there. Hi, I love the show, by the way. It was fabulous. I actually work at the Belmont Paul House. I wore my jail door pin. So it was kind of like one of the tours that we give at the house, but much more entertaining. And you hit all the crucial spots. But one of the things that I wanted to ask, and a lot of people are concerned, and are surprised that when we give tours of the house, is they don't know that a lot of the opposition to the suffrage movement was actually not just men, but women. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to know, are there any musical numbers in the show that talk about the anti-suffs and their kind of relation to the movement?
Those are actually on the cutting room floor. Okay. We had a major scene about the anti-suffrage women, which I was completely surprised by when we were researching, and we had written it out, and just for time, we ended up having to make some really brutal cuts, and that was one of the more painful ones, because it was such a fascinating story.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great question.
Thank you.
That's Ranger Lauren. She gives my groups tours at Belmont Paul House, and she rocks. Cheers to the Park Service. But my question was inspired by the young lady in the sash. Do you have any plans, or might you consider reaching out to the boards of elections in our area and inviting them specifically to the show and maybe also considering suggesting that they bring voter registration forms for anybody who might not be registered to vote?
We do now.
We did a show up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and the League of Women Voters was there in force with,
You're welcome.
with voter registration forms.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the show. Let's give our cast and everybody a big round of applause. And remember, come back out in November to see the full production. And thank you for coming tonight.
Yes, maybe I can get it back up here. Oh, that's going to be not so pretty.